We are back on MorningLine. We were talking during the break about stereotypes about the homelessness, and there are so many good people that give and support the mission and volunteer and care about this issue and want to help these people. But I sense, and I was telling you about a recent criminal case where there was an individual charged with a crime, shooting a homeless person, and there were a lot of witnesses that witnessed what happened, and the jury came back with really just about the least punishment this individual could have received, and that's the way it's going to play out. A lot of people were surprised that it was not a little more of a stiffer penalty. I saw it from where I stood. I respect the jury's opinion on this, but there's an attitude there that maybe, we're tired of the homeless badgering us on the streets and that kind of thing. What do you think about that?
Well, homelessness is not a crime.
No, not at all.
And so the stereotypes, many times we think they're drug addicts, they're alcoholics, they don't want to work, they don't want a job, and we have so many stereotypes, and we could spend a whole episode just talking about that. But in my experience since 1992 of working with the homeless those are stereotypes, but they're not true. The homeless don't work, they have jobs, they earn minimum wage. Not everybody, but largely a lot of them do. And there's women and children that have been abandoned by a father, by a husband, by a boyfriend. And so there are so many issues, but we kind of degrade to the criminal, the mental health, the violent things, and it's just not the case. And so I serve meals at the shelter from time to time, and I know you have too, Nick. And when you give a tray to a man or a woman, it's very unusual for one of them not to look you in the eye and say, thank you so much. And so you don't see the violence, you don't see the anger, you don't see the hatred. You see, I understand you're doing this to help me, and I am appreciative of it. And they express that, and that just warms my heart. And as I said earlier, being homeless is not a crime, and just breaking through the stereotypes. They're not all mental health issues. They're not all substance abusers. They're not criminals. They just are a situation where, as you said before, we're all a paycheck away from that. They've experienced that.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, as you've observed the Homeless Commission, where they're at, and it's just your observations, and you come from a unique perspective, like someone who works with these individuals on a daily basis. What needs to be done, or if you could offer, your thoughts on what might work in terms of addressing it?
Well, the Homeless Commission that I'm aware of and that I know really doesn't have a lot of teeth to it. And so there needs to be, in my view, a commission or a committee or a resource, a council, whatever you want to call it, that actually can issue some help, some guidance for shelters, some minimum requirements. I remember in Oklahoma City, where I'm from, there was a lack of that area. Excuse me, the lack of that. And so we had people starting homeless shelters in buildings that weren't up to par. And there was a fire that broke out in one of those and killed many of the homeless. And so, to have some agency, council, board, commission, whatever it is, that can actually have teeth to really decide we need this, we don't need this, or this is being done well, or here's some minimum standards, some minimum requirements to be able to do that would be helpful. Right now, if you have 3 or 4, it's kind of one of those things, you have 3 or 4 people or agencies in charge, then no one's in charge.
Right, because they'll all have different ideas.
Right.
So maybe, something like that, and it has more authority to do something. Yeah, and as far as, now when you talk about something with teeth and authorities, some laws have been passed, of course, with regard to what kind of crime a homeless individual could be faced with, up to a felony, if they're camping out on public land. Your observation on that?
I don't think it'll have much of an impact, to be honest with you. I think that the DA's on record saying he won't prosecute. Police, different ones, are on record saying they won't arrest. So we have law on the books that will not be enforced. enforced.
Yeah, which we see time and again. And I think sometimes those laws are passed by legislators because of frustrations from their constituents.
Right.
And we know that, and I have sympathy on that. My first sympathy is with the homeless and helping them. But my second is, in some of these communities where tents have just set up right outside a neighborhood, you know what I'm talking about, some of these. You understand why that's a problem too, right? I mean, you just have everyone camping out on public places, wherever it may be, and the argument, well, it's public, I can be here. Well, that's not entirely true. How do you see that?
Well, I've been to L.A. where meeting with city council people, and on the property of the city council offices, having to step through tents, step over sleeping bags, and I understand that strain. And so here at Nashville, what we try to do is stay in front of that.
Right.
So by providing and having a place where they can go, you're always going to have people that don't want to go to a shelter. They're shelter resistant. They can't live in crowds. I understand that. But by providing enough shelter space for everyone to come if they need to is very important. In LA, they just don't have that. They don't have the option.
Yep, and you're right. It's amazing what you sometimes see in that area. So, yeah, I just worry about whether or not you're right, the prosecution's not going to come on these types of cases. Probably not. Do you think those in the homeless community are aware that the laws are on the books to this degree now?
Yeah.
They know that? Do you think they're aware that, do you think it'll change any of their behaviors?
No.
Probably not. Probably not in Nashville.
I'm just telling you how I feel.
Okay, so that law is not going to be necessarily an issue there. The question then gets back to what you said. Getting something with teeth or authority in a single body to say, let's do this.
Right.
I mean, you hear the mayor talk about it all the time, right?
Right.
And the public, I wonder, people complain about it and see it, but how high a priority do you think the homelessness issue is for the public when you have that in the balance, education, public safety, police and fire, that kind of stuff?
Well, I think it's an issue that rates fairly high with the public. Now, with the public office and with government, I think it's one of those issues that's annoyance. It's an issue when it becomes an issue with the public. With me, as far as leadership, and I'm talking about me personally, but with leadership within the government assets of Nashville, it only is an issue with me when it's an issue with you. And so the more that the public outcries and what the public attends to it, then it becomes a public issue. But if you're just leaving it to the government to cipher through and the government to decide, the government to take action, it won't happen unless the public cries out.
Okay, well, and I would say if there is still that stereotype, which I do think exists to some degree, we both agree on that. It's get a chance to help and reach out and volunteer. As I said, if you see, I guess as we wrap things up, what are the needs out there at the mission right now? I mean, and when I talk about volunteering, I guess volunteers can sign up. As I said, I've been out there to help serve meals. So what kind, in what capacity, what are you looking for?
Well, we're looking for those, for people to help serve meals, for people to help sort donations, to help in the warehouse with, sorting through foods or sorting through clothes, and of course, serving the meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not only serving, but also preparing and helping in that area too. So our kitchen, as you've been aware, is extremely busy all day long. When you're preparing for 3 meals and then serving 3 meals, just as soon as you finish serving breakfast, then you have to clean up, prepare for lunch, and so on and so forth, all day long.
Yeah, it is an industrial kitchen. It is. It's like the busiest of any restaurant anywhere is what it is. It's that big. All right, so aside from the volunteers, people can make donations. I mean, everything from perishable to non-perishable foods. You talked about sorting through things like clothing, blanket. What right in the summertime, is there a need for bottled water? What do you think?
Yes, right now bottled water is very, very important for us, and the entire community is responding very well to that. But we still need bottled water all year long, but certainly, especially during the summertime, just to keep people hydrated and keep people refreshed. That's very important. And so, and in summertime, people are cleaning out the closets and are donating winter clothes. And in wintertime, you're donating summer clothes. So, you know, clothes, especially undergarments, because we don't accept used undergarments. So brand new undergarments for men and women are very important.
This time of year, too, an awful lot of people have their backyard gardens and all of this.
Right.
And you always plant tomatoes. You give them to friends, you can them, and you still have a lot. I mean, if someone has a yard and they've got just an amazing abundance of tomatoes, can they put them in a box and bring them by and say, I've got a bunch of fresh tomatoes for you?
Absolutely.
Or any other kind of produce?
Tomato, cucumbers, peppers, anything.
Oh, cucumbers.
Squash.
I can bring you cucumbers. My cucumbers are coming out the ears. You bring it, and you bring it by. You come to the front office door there. You say, I've got some in my truck. How does that work?
You can do that. You can go to the donation center, which is in the very back, and the big American flag there on the side of the building. Can't miss it. Off of 7th Street. But yeah, so we have people donating from their garden, and the fun thing about us serving 3 meals a day, you bring us a box of tomatoes, we will use them somehow within that day.
Because that's perishable. Does anyone ever bring sweets?
Yes.
Not that that's a priority for meals, but let's say someone has, like, for whatever reason, crates of jelly beans or something like that. Does that ever come your way?
Oh, absolutely. And we receive a lot of donuts from Krispy Kreme in different places. People donating that, and we find a way to use it.
And again, we know you made it very clear, and this makes perfect sense. No drugs ever to be brought in by any of the folks that are there. No alcohol of any type, beer, wine, booze. Obviously, no marijuana, drug, cigarettes. Is there a smoking area?
We do have a smoking area on our program. It's a non-smoking program. But but we have many of the guests that do, and there are smoking areas for them.
And we should say this as we wrap it up.
Our campus is non-smoking.
It's non-smoking.
So outside we have areas.
And the campus and what you do, faith is a large part of it. It's not required. If someone comes for whatever reason and they're not part of a church, or they say, look, I'm just not religious, doesn't mean you're going to kick them out.
No, absolutely not.
But faith does play a very important role. I've seen it in some of the, I guess you have a chapel there, right? And that's an important part, you would say, would you not?
It's important, very important to who we are and what we do. And we do this because of our faith. We have many people that have no faith. They don't care about faith. They have a different faith in Christianity. We serve them with the same love and compassion as anybody else. We don't differentiate between them. So it dictates who we are and what we do. It doesn't dictate who you are needing help.
Yeah, which is great. But if you choose to be that way, it's a great community for that.
Right.
You're just such a good guy. What do you do for kicks when you're off work? Do you fish? Do you hike? Do you ride a bike?
I love to fish.
Do you really?
I love to fish, and I have 9 grandkids.
Oh, man.
And so spent a lot of time visiting. I don't have any of them that live close. So Brooklyn, Oklahoma.
Wow.
And so
How many children did you have?
I have 4 boys.
4 boys. And you have 9 grandkids.
Yeah, right, 9. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Well, listen, thank you. As always, it's always great to see you. You guys do such a wonderful job, and I hope this gets the word out as always. And we'll talk to you again sometime soon, all right?
Great.
Appreciate it. Glenn Cranfield with the Union Mission here in downtown Nashville. Fantastic job there. We'll take a break, be back with a programming note about tomorrow right after this. Stay with us.